Good morning, everybody. I know we're at church, but where are we at in the Bible? Canceled your jokes before you even said them. Well, as soon as we get the PowerPoint unfroze, we can start it up. Me and Renee already fixed that this morning. I did it again. All right. We'll be recapping Proverbs 11. We're getting into the part of Proverbs. I don't want to say repetitive, but it's Solomon, and he's kind of going over a lot of the things that were already talked about earlier in Proverbs, because they were from Solomon's advisors and counselors, and these are just from Solomon himself. But still, it's very good advice. A lot of it is the same advice, but if it wasn't important, the Bible wouldn't put it in there twice in the same book. So, a false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. So what do we mean by a false balance? Something that is untrue, a lie. So back in the day, I'm not sure about this exact time era, but you didn't have coin value or paper value to things. You traded in weight. So if you wanted 20 sacks of flour, they would have an equivalent weight of gold or weight of silver that you would trade for that. And they would get the scale and weigh out that much weight of silver or gold versus, the standardized grams of whatever that way. And some of these vendors would tweak their scales to where it would look balanced, and they would get a little bit more of your gold from it. So it would take like 9 ounces to read 8 ounces. So they would get a free ounce of gold from all of that. For one, that's lying, and for one, that's cheating. But also, a false balance is an abomination. So lying and cheating isn't necessarily an abomination to the Lord. What makes it an abomination is it's not logical. So 1 pound should weigh 1 pound. That is logic, that is balance, that is logos, that equals out. So when man comes along and tweaks it to where 1 pound is now equaling 2 on the other side, God hates that. So it's kind of like if you say 1 + 1 = 47, God doesn't like that kind of stuff because it goes against the flow. It's unnatural. If you drop a seed in the ocean and a tree starts growing out just in the water floating, abomination. God doesn't like that kind of stuff. So when pride cometh, then cometh shame. But with the lowly is wisdom. The integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of the transgressors shall destroy them. So here we talk about the difference in pride and lowly, and shame and integrity. And I use some examples. So what are some examples of pride? Let's go with what does pride even mean?
Self-centeredness.
Self-centeredness. What's another example of pride? Why is it bad to be prideful?
I'm so happy that I'm better than you.
So happy you're better than me? Yeah, okay. Okay, so what about pride?
Oh, no.
Why did they adopt that as their slogan? Why aren't they saying happy? Why aren't they saying just homosexual or anything? They say pride.
Proud to be that way.
Proud to be that way. So is that like a double sin? Is that a sin within a sin that they're calling it that? Could be. Pride. I don't know about you, but I don't know about the scales here. Anyway, but let's talk about this pride, like what you guys were saying, we're thinking about. Me and Dad watched this one. Conor McGregor. I know a lot of you guys maybe don't know who that is. Younger people do. But you got Conor McGregor. So he was just a young guy. He was kind of poor growing up in Ireland, and he worked a bunch of jobs. He was like, this isn't me. And he would just fight all the time. His parents told him he was stupid. Everybody told him he was stupid. But he was broke. He was hungry. And he knew he didn't want to go work 24 hours a day being like plumber or whatever. So he worked hard, was focused, had tunnel vision, became the champion, became the UFC champion, and then became the first ever champion in 2 weight class divisions. And everybody's like, this guy's insane. He's beating everybody, knocking out the undefeated champions in like 14 seconds, was just doing crazy stuff. And then once this happened, you started to see his demeanor change a little bit. He would get in the ring, walk around with his walks, started posting pictures of his yachts, his money, his cars, instead of him at the gym training or him knocking people out. And then what started happening? Well, he started getting choked out, started getting beat up a lot more. And me and Dad watched him get knocked out pretty bad in that last fight. And so now everybody's wondering, well, what happened? Is Conor McGregor even worth all this hype anymore? Is he if he's just gonna lose all the time, why would we watch him? Why would we give him a lot of money? How's he gonna get sponsorships? How's he gonna afford all these other things? Well, when pride cometh, then cometh shame. Because now, everybody's like, you're not the fighter we thought you were. But with the lowly is wisdom. The integrity of the upright shall guide them. So then I used the other example, Brandon. Brandon Magnus, the dude, he fought in the UFC in the tough competitions, and he got beat. He got beat in the championship. He started getting beat by some other people that were still pretty good, but not that good. And then the UFC eventually was like, all right, you're good, but you don't have what it takes. We're going to cut you. And then he was like, listen, I'm going to be UFC champion one day. You can cut me, fire me, whatever. I'm just going to come back. So after that, he had a heart-to-heart with himself, started training harder, taking it more seriously, came back, started beating all the best in his division, and now eventually won the championship, the UFC 135-pound championship, might be 25. And even the guy that beat him was happy for him. His story is just crazy how he literally started getting beat so much he got cut and climbed his way all the way back out from being cut from the UFC. Dude, he just beat up, lost the belt, lifted him up and was like, you deserve this, you're the best champion. Everybody was like crying, all the commentators and everything, just because he has such a good story. And this is him. This is his life. Chuggy like this one. It's hard to convince people that this is the UFC champion and that he could beat up anybody in this room probably. But, that's what he wanted to do. He grew up poor in Mexico, found a Lego set that was kind of half complete. That was the only thing he had when he was a kid, so he played with it all the time. He always said, if I ever start getting money, I'm going to get every Lego I want. So now he collects a bunch of Legos and toys and all that to do whatever. But that shows the difference. When pride cometh, then cometh shame. But with the lowly is wisdom. The integrity of the upright. What's integrity mean?
Doing what you say you're going to do.
Doing what you say you're going to do, yeah. So I like the Army's definition of this the best. It's one of the values. It's doing the right thing even if nobody's watching. That's integrity. Of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. Moving on. Riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death. The righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but the transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. And what this is saying right here is there are good people, there are bad people. And if you are bad, you obviously will be punished and not in God's favor. And if you're good, your paths are going to direct you. So this is pretty much cutting out all the excuses on if you're bad, you're doing it to yourself. Don't blame God in that day because he showed you the path. You had the option. If you are wicked, if you are doing wrong, and you chose to do that, in the day when your end comes, that was on you. When a wicked man dieth, his expectation shall perish, and the hope of unjust men perisheth. The righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked cometh in his stead. So when a wicked man dieth, his expectations shall perish. Think about all these evil kings, all these evil gangs, evil rulers who had followers, a lot of big followers, a lot of cults and everything like that. And then one day they die. And now all these cult members and all the leaders are like, oh, I guess he wasn't, going to descend up to heaven in an alien ship like he told us he was because he drank some Kool-Aid and he's dead. I'm not going to follow this guy anymore. I guess we were all wrong. The expectation perishes with you. But the hope of unjust men, all those guys that are following him, perisheth also. The righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked cometh in his stead. So take Noah's people, for example, back in his day. They had this real evil city. Everybody on earth was evil. That's why God could only choose Noah to go out. He was like, yeah, Noah, go find anybody like you. Find one, find two. Anybody you find, bring them on the boat with you. Noah couldn't find anybody because they all had different expectations, different dreams, different goals. They wanted to be a big, awesome city and do whatever they wanted as man. But Noah, being righteous, was told to build a boat. A big one, a huge one. And he did it. And who wins? A big, booming civilization of sin, or one man and his family in a boat? A hypocrite with his mouth destroyeth his neighbor, but through knowledge shall the just be delivered. When it goeth well with the righteous, the city rejoiceth, and the wicked perisheth, there is shouting. You can rejoice if there's an evil king, and then the evil king gets killed and overthrown. You're like, oh, thank you, goodness. I don't want to like living under that. I know it's weird to say you can rejoice in the death of somebody, but it's biblical. When it goeth well with the righteous, the city rejoiceth. If you got a good king, keep him. You don't want nothing to happen. Like, hey, let's do this. But when the wicked perish, there is shouting. By the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted, but it is overthrown by the mouth of the wicked. He that is void of wisdom despiseth his neighbor, but a man of understanding holdeth his peace. So here, take Rome for example, the blessing of the upright, the city is exalted. They were doing very well. They started letting everybody else in, started adopting a bunch of different cultures until everybody was just fighting internally all the time. And some of the wicked people figured their way through the Senate and got in, corrupted them, made all these new rules, these new changes, and quickly their enemies smelled that they were weak. They knew they were weak. They lost their organization. They lost their uprightness. And then the fall of Rome. And he that is void of wisdom despiseth his neighbor, but a man of understanding holdeth his peace. Don't fight with your neighbor, even if there's really good reason to. Because you want to be peaceful with your neighbors, because that's one of the worst people to have a feud with, because they live right there. You know, there's no way away from them, even if you're at your house. A talebearer revealeth secrets, but he that is of a faithful spirit concealeth the matter. Where no counsel is, the people fall, but in the multitude of counselors there is safety. So I have a lot of my own ideas, a lot of different things I want to do, but there are a lot of people who have already done what I'm wanting to do a couple of times, so they're smarter about it than I am. I would be silly not to consult them, talk to them, and ask them, learn from them, and not make the same mistakes they did, because they've already made them for me. And this is what it's saying with counselors. Sometimes it's better to get the thoughts of a few different people that are experts on the matter before you actually do it yourself. And the first counselor you should seek is what? Who should you always seek first? God. Yeah, it says that all over Proverbs, probably every chapter that we've read so far. He that is, all right, this is that tongue twister verse, remember? He that is surety for a stranger shall smart for it, and he that hateth suretyship is sure. Say that 10 times fast. Go ahead. So you have to break it down and kind of look at the Hebrew words for everything. In this case, surety, it kind of means the same thing as being sure, but think of a cosigner. Like you're vouching for that person, you're vouching for them. So you write your name, and now your name's associated with that. So, he that is surety for a stranger. So imagine somebody just walks off the street and they're like, hey, I'm about to buy this $200,000 house. Can you be a cosigner for me? Would you just be like, yeah, sure? No, because now if they don't pay the debt, you're liable for it. Or if somebody comes into town, you don't know them, like, oh, I'm a really good person, just sign for me. And then they go start murdering people and get arrested. And they're like, you said he was good. You let him in here. You told us. You didn't know that guy. You shouldn't vouch for them. Shall smart for it. And here, smart, the word of that just means not what it says it does. To suffer evil or to receive injury. So you're going to suffer for that. So if you co-sign for somebody you don't know, you're going to suffer, is what it's saying. And he that hateth suretyship, so you don't like the co-signers, you don't like taking other people's word for strangers that you don't know them, is sure. And that's the sure that you're thinking of. So basically it's saying, it's okay to be skeptical. It's okay to want something proved to you before you just believe it and buy into it and go on out. And in fact, you should do that, because you can let in a lot of corruption, a lot of trouble in your life if you don't just go around signing everything. A gracious woman retaineth honor, and strong men retain riches. The merciful man doeth good to his own soul, but he that is cruel troubleth his own flesh. The wicked worketh a deceitful work, but to him that soweth righteousness shall be a sure reward. So a merciful man doeth good to his own soul, but he that is cruel troubleth his own flesh. Let's say I was a king, and I just took over kingship from another king, whether it was wicked or good, and then I kill all of his family except for one son who is gone. What's that son going to want to do when he gets there? And he's going to want to come back and kill me for killing his whole family, right? But what if I go in, I take over this king, and I'm like, look, you guys get to live, but you're going to have to go in exile or something like that. Or I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to take this over, but I'm going to be fair. I'm going to be merciful. Then you do with good to your own soul, because now way less likely of a chance they're going to come in and kill you. So when you have a chance to be merciful, not necessarily in kingship, but just in anything, it's good to not make enemies. That way you can sleep at night, not worrying about a dagger coming into your throat while you're asleep. But if you're cruel and you go around making a lot of enemies, there's a lot of tiptoeing you're going to have to do. As righteousness tendeth to life, so he that pursueth evil pursueth it to his own death. They that are of forward heart are abomination to the Lord, but such as are upright in their way are his delight. Though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. Sometimes doing good, it's hard to do good where evil is not present, and it's not really necessarily evil if good is not present that has been doing too. So if there has to be a seed to be corrupted or to bear fruit, both common factor in that is the seed. This is what it's saying. You're going to be hand in hand with all this stuff, but the wicked shall not go unpunished, and the seed of the righteous will be delivered in this, though you're both scattered in the same field. As a jewel of gold in a swine's snout, so is a fair woman which is without discretion. The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. And again, the only way I can really describe this, and in a church-friendly setting, if you're a pretty girl or you are a girl and you have something a lot of people want, but anybody who wants to can get that certain thing for free or see that certain thing for free, it is of no more value, and thus you lost that. And that's what it's saying there. Therefore is that scattereth and yet increaseth, or there is that scattereth and yet increaseth, and there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. So what this is saying is, you can scatter seeds, they're going to bring up fruit, and they're going to give you more seeds that you can keep going with that. But if you take all this fruit and you don't get the seeds from them, you don't eat them, you store them all up and it all rots, you have all that waste that's going in there. Don't have a whole lot more than you need if you're not going to do anything with it, basically is what this one's saying. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. He that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it. So I use that example. Let's say I'm the only corn person in Bean Station. I grow a field of it. Everybody else is starving, so like, please sell me some corn seeds so I can feed my family. And I'm like, no, you have to get all your corn from me. And it's expensive. Price is going up next year even. Everybody's going to be really mad at me. Or if I even don't do that, I'm like, no, I think I want to be the only corn guy, but I only grow enough for me and my family. And I don't sell seed for anybody else to feed theirs. They're also going to be really upset at me. But if you have extra and you have excess and people are going to come buy it, and especially when it's something like food or corn, you should definitely sell it to them. I mean, it gets people in a lot of trouble in all these other places. Even in Amos, where it was talking about they would bring their crops and then they would trick them, sell them out to their debt. Somebody would buy that debt, get all their crops, and now a slave from it. All this evil stuff. He that diligently seeketh good procureth favor, but he that seeketh mischief, it shall come unto him. You've heard it said before, if you go looking for trouble, you'll find it, always. It's out there everywhere. He that trusteth in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be servant to the wise of heart. If you're a son and you're going out, or daughter, and you're going out blowing all your parents' money, you don't have any responsibility, you're causing your family a lot of heartache, and when it comes down to who gets the inheritance, it's not going to be you. It's going to be a brother or a sister. That's what this is saying. If you trouble your own house, you'll inherit the wind, which in this case means you won't inherit anything. And the fool shall be servant to the wise, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. So don't let all this money blind you and cause you to drown and think you're doing okay, because there's going to come a time when that source of that money is going to be turned off. Now we're going to see if you can swim or not. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise. Behold, the righteous shall be recompensed in the earth, much more the wicked and the sinner. That was Proverbs. That was a little bit of a long recap, so I'll go a little faster. This chapter is not as long. Whoso loveth instruction loveth knowledge, but he that hateth reproof is brutish. A good man obtaineth favor of the Lord, but a wicked man of wicked devices will he condemn. So, and here brutish doesn't mean like, big, stout brute man, although it could. It literally translates to stupidity or stupid. That's what brutish means. So if you don't love knowledge or instruction and you hate it, you're stupid. And you say, well, who on earth would do that? Well, I'll use some examples of just the stupidness all around us in our society. This is a toilet seat on an airplane reminding you to not swim in it. Why is that sticker there? Because somebody tried to get in it and swim in it or something stupid. Touching wires causes instant death. $200 fine. Yeah. This is soap in a soap dispenser. Someone put bar soap in a liquid hand soap dispenser. This guy has a hat on and sunglasses, but the hat's backwards, so he's using his hand to cover it. And then there are women who check BB guns if they're loaded or not by looking down the barrel, and you shouldn't do that. Got a cousin who has eye shot out doing it. But yeah, so stupid signs and stuff exist for a reason. This is saying you should love knowledge and instruction, like, hey, don't do that, so you don't end up with stickers everywhere. A man shall not be established by wickedness, but the root of righteousness shall not be moved. A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is a rottenness in his bones. So you all know the Will Smith story and all that. Guy had to come cry on TV, and now everybody's just a laughing stock. Everybody's kind of making fun of him about his marriage. His marriage is a joke. This one up front was a funny picture. It took me a minute. But that is a husband taking a picture with his wife on the wedding night, and he made sure to put the camera over her face, like he was ashamed of her. And I thought that was hilarious, so I wanted to show you guys too. She was like, that's the only picture from our wedding night that he took, and he took it over our face. That's something funny. But anyway, there's rottenness in his bones. The thoughts of the righteous are right, but the counsels of the wicked are deceit. So we're not the only ones that have counsels. Wicked people get around, sit together, and see how they can be more wicked, how they can profit more, and who they have to destroy or climb over to get to that level. The words of the wicked are to lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright shall deliver them. The wicked are overthrown and are not, but the house of the righteous shall stand. And this is a super expensive piece of artwork made of wood, and I think it's called Righteousness Prevails or something. So, words of the wicked are to lie in blood, but the mouth of the upright shall deliver them. A man shall be commended according to his wisdom, but he that is of a perverse heart shall be despised. He that is despised and hath a servant, here we go. This is the one I want to show here. He that is despised and hath a servant is better than he that honoreth himself and lacketh bread. So when I read that at first, I was like, so it's better to do evil than to be good and starve? Well, that doesn't make sense. That goes against like everything I thought the Bible was about. Then I read it, looked at it. I was like, oh, there we go. Honoreth himself. Not honoreth God, not honoreth anything. He honoreth himself. So this is saying, even in God's eyes, or maybe just in the eyes of these advisors, Solomon, he that is despised, but you have a servant, you're still better than one who is, let's say, too good to clean toilets. Or I have more respect for myself than to work at a garbage place, but I'm starving and I'm homeless. But I don't want to sell myself short. Well, a wicked person who has enough to have a servant is still better than you trying to be high and mighty in the streets, on your throne in the streets, and to starve. So, and then I looked up the root, and it's a primitive word, crook, or literally, or figuratively, do amiss, bow down, make crooked. That's where the perverseness is coming from here. So think of these two evil guys on the right, Stalin and Lenin, very evil, killed millions and millions of people, both of them. These guys are over here like, well, we're not going to give in to that. We're too good for that. Man, they're starving. So, yeah. A righteous man regardeth the life of his beast, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. He that tilleth his land shall be satisfied with bread, but he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. The wicked desireth the net of evil men, but the root of the righteous yieldeth fruit. So what are some tender mercies of the wicked? What's a good example you can think of? That's a good one. I haven't thought of that one. Oh, you're not ready to have a family yet? Go ahead. Come here. We'll take care of that for you. We'll just cut that thing right out and let you keep going. Aren't we so nice to you? Aren't we so good to you? Wrong. You're not good to them. But yeah, a tender mercy. Just, you ever seen like the bad guys, and then they'll like be eating the chicken, and they'll see the poor person, they'll throw the bone to them. A tender mercy is still cruel with that. But he that tilleth his land shall be satisfied with bread. But if you're going to work for it, not depending on the scraps from the king's table, not in the God King Jesus sense with that one woman, but like the physical man king, then you're the one that will get it. You'll get your own food. The wicked is snared by the transgressions of his lips, but the just shall come out of trouble. Think Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. He's always trying to kill the Roadrunner, but he always ends up hurting himself with the same traps he had for the Roadrunner. The wicked is snared by the transgressions of his lips, but the just shall come out of trouble. A man shall be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth, and the recompense of a man's hands shall be rendered unto him. You get what you work for, is what this is saying. If you get the seeds, you guys plant it, you get the fruit at the end of it, and the vegetables and all of that. The way of a fool is right in his own eyes. So you can tell all these people that they're wrong. You can tell them abortion's wrong. You can tell them slavery's wrong. You can tell them that selling out your friends for money is wrong. And don't be surprised when they don't change their mind, because of them, they're right in their own eyes. But he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise. A fool's wrath is presently known, but a prudent man covereth shame. You guys seen Billy Madison? A lot of you? Adam Sandler movie? Remember when he's friends with the little boy, and the little boy's crying on the field trip? He's like, what's wrong? He's like, oh, I peed my pants. Everybody's going to make fun of me. So Billy Madison goes over to the water fountain and splashes it on him. He's like, yeah, peeing your pants is cool. And then all the kids started peeing their pants. He kind of covered his shame right there. I mean, that's an extreme example, but a prudent man covereth shame. He that speaketh truth showeth forth righteousness, but a false witness deceit. There is that speaketh like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is health. The lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. Think about all these lying tongues from back in the day that aren't true now, such as 7-Up, really good for babies. Nicotine cigarettes are the smooth taste that expectant mothers deserve or crave. And vitamin donuts, I like those. I wish those were real. Come back with some vitamin donuts. And that DDT is good for you, all the vegetables and plants and people that are spraying it on. So think of all the commercials and ads from back then that are now out of date. And now laugh at yourself, because in 20 or 40 years, you're going to see some modern commercials up there saying the same exact thing, the things that we're doing and consuming all the time. So don't laugh at how stupid they were. Laugh at how stupid people are in general, because it's still happening, even though it's right now. Deceit is in the heart of them that imagine evil, but to the counselors of peace is joy. There shall no evil happen to the just, but the wicked shall be filled with mischief. This doesn't mean bad things aren't going to happen to Christians. This doesn't mean that if you are a Christian, you'll never get sick. You'll never have bad things happen to you. But this does say that no evil will happen to you. Not necessarily bad things, but evil. You will not be cursed. You will not have hexes on you. You will not, think of other evil things that can happen. But this one was a tough one. Like, there were no bad things. What about Mickey's story? What about the little girl that got kidnapped and cut up and everything? Did not bad happen to them? Well, let's just say it will be justified. But the wicked will always be filled with mischief. And for us, it's good to just avoid those types of situations. It's good to be out of them. Don't cross paths with it. Although it said we're going to be hand in hand with evil, you don't have to be okay with it. You can fight back and you can resist that. Lying lips are abomination to the Lord, but they that deal truly are his delight. A prudent man concealeth knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaim foolishness. So what does this mean? A prudent man, a smart man, concealeth knowledge. He concealed shame before. Now what does it mean to conceal knowledge? Well, for one, think about concealed carry, which is now legal in Tennessee as of July 1st. Anybody can conceal carry without a license. But why conceal carry? Why not just carry it openly and show it on your hip? There are certain situations I can think of where I don't want anybody knowing I have a gun, or I want people to not know if I have a gun or not. That will be a little more, if you go around carrying a gun, a lot of times it'll avoid the situation altogether. Or a lot of other times they're like, okay, we'll take him out first, nobody else has guns, then we'll do our plan. So now you just made yourself a target with it. But if you don't know who in here has one, well, this is probably a bad idea. I don't know if I should do this or not. That's how it'll be. Think about trade secrets. Every major corporation has their own different things that they've learned on businesses, on how to work and how to make profit. If they just told them out to everybody would be doing the same thing. It wouldn't be a secret, and everybody would either be profiting or the trick would be up and nobody would be profiting. So they keep certain things to themselves. What if we just went out and told all of our secrets to Russia and China and all that? There's some things you don't want them to know about our capabilities and all that. Same with them and not wanting us to know. There's whole wars being fought over intelligence and espionage right now that none of you will ever hear anything about. Let's just say we're really good at it, but so are they. So it's happening all around you. And sometimes it's just good to not tell anybody things you know. Like this guy, for example, he said, I started dating a girl and decided I'd learn her language, Punjab, which is Indian. Anyways, that's how I found out she was cheating on me, because he learned her language and didn't tell her. Now, had she have known he knew the language or was learning it, she wouldn't have spoke that or said that around him. So it's not always just smart. It's never smart, actually, to just go around being an open book of knowledge unless the situation applies for it, unless it's needed. The hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute. Heaviness in the heart of the man maketh it stoop, but a good work maketh it glad. The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them. So here we have the hand of the diligent shall bear rule. If you have bosses above you, if you have leaders, they really worked hard to get where they are in most cases. And that doesn't necessarily make them bad leaders. Sometimes they're good. They got up there, climbed their way to the top. I want to follow that guy because I support him. But at the bottom, the righteous is more excellent than his neighbor. Of course, your boss is better at his job than you, has more stature at his job than you. But the way of the wicked seduceth them. So that's where it's still even on you as a follower. He can control the ship. Make sure it's not into sirens. You might know what sirens are. You guys know what sirens are? They don't know what sirens are. Watch Pirates of the Caribbean or something. Just kidding, don't do that. The slothful man roasteth not that which he took in hunting, but the substance of a diligent man is precious. So if somebody goes out, struggles, works hard, silent all day, and catches something hunting, He comes back and there's old Grognak, like, oh, I'm so glad you guys got some meat today. I was starving. Like, well, you could have been out there helping us get it, Grognak. I just thought of caveman for some reason when they were talking about roasting meat over a fire. And so he said he was sick that day. And then they said, you don't look sick. It's like my cat was. My cat was sick, so I didn't help you. It's just a good example of all of that. If you don't work, you don't what? From Timothy and Titus. In the way of the righteousness is life, and in the pathway, therefore, there is no death. So in the way of righteousness is life, and in the pathway there is no death. Think about this. This is Old Testament. This is pre-Jesus stuff. Still, they knew the way of righteousness is life, eternal life. And in the pathway, there is no death in it. So eternal life. Back then, this is probably kind of how they imagined it. You just stay on the ladder the whole way. Don't be deceived. Don't fall off. And you'll make it to life everlasting. We as Christians today more so we have seen, or not seen, but have heard of or learned and got to experience the one who came to give us everlasting life. So we know the path, we know the road, and we don't have to rely 100% on just our righteousness anymore. We have a big example to follow that we know is the right path and is the truth. And that is Proverbs. Sorry if I went a little long. Just a little bit.
Very good.
All right. Thank you.